They weren't trying to reach hell. That was a rumor. What Soviet scientists were actually trying to reach was the truth, and they believed that the only way to reach it was down. In 1970, on a remote corner of the Kola Peninsula near the Arctic mining town of Zapolarny, the Soviet Union began drilling a hole straight into the earth. It wasn't for oil. It wasn't for defense. It was for science. The Kola Superdeep Borehole would become one of the deepest man-made points in all of history. Earth's continental crust runs about 25 to 30 miles thick. That's 40 to 48 kilometers. But until then, the deepest humans had gone was about 5 miles, or 8 kilometers, in oil wells. The Soviets wanted to push past that, into the unknown. And the plan was simple. Drill until you can't drill anymore. They used a method called rotary drilling, reinforced with custom-built bits made of heat-resistant alloys and shaft pipes, engineered for vertical load. Progress was slow, less than 30 feet or 9 meters per day. But it was steady. This was not a commercial operation. No oil deadline. The only goal was depth. Then came the surprises. Below 20,000 feet, or 6,096 meters, the drill cut into Precambrian rock, older than multicellular life itself. At 24,000 feet, 7,315 meters, they discovered water trapped in rock fractures. That water should not have been there. There was no known mechanism for water to migrate that deep. Yet there it was. It was real. Not an aquifer, but water locked inside crystalline grain boundaries. That right there shook long-standing models of crustal hydrology. Farther down, they found microscopic plankton fossils encased in metamorphic rock, proof that parts of the crust had once been a sea floor, then uplifted and buried over geologic time. Every core sample told a story of continental collision, heat, compression, and rebirth. It wasn't just Earth's depth on display. It was its autobiography. But the deeper they drilled, the stranger things became. Temperatures did not rise as expected. They soared. By the time they reached 35,000 feet, or 10,668 meters, the rock was 356 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius. The drill was approaching its limit. Bits began to warp. Drilling fluid vaporized. And then at the edge of reach, something worse. The rock itself changed character. It did not behave like solid granite. It acted like plastic. At roughly 38,000 feet, 11,582 meters, they encountered a layer of rock so hot and pressurized that it had begun to partially melt. Not lava. Something stranger. A high-temperature pressurized gel of ductile rock. Molten in consistency, dense in weight, and sticky. Bits began to clog. Lubricant systems failed. Every new shaft segment encountered deformation pressure. Rock was flowing into the hole, squeezing everything shut that had just been drilled. They tried new alloys, new strategies, but every meter cost more than the last 100. In 1989, the final depth recorded 40,230 feet. That's 12,262 meters. That is deeper than the height of Mount Everest turned upside down. No one has gone deeper since. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the site lost funding. The last teams packed up and left. And in 1995, after funding collapsed completely, the site was shut down. A steel cap about the size of a manhole cover was welded over the opening. A 7.6 mile, 12.2 kilometer deep hole, the deepest ever drilled in human history, was sealed not with ceremony, but with rust. And then came all the myths. A tabloid in Finland wrote a spoof story, claiming that Soviet scientists heard screams from hell at the bottom of the hole. It was total fiction, picked up by a fringe religious newsletter in California and spread without verification. The story went viral before that word even existed. Kola was called the well to hell. In truth, it was something more profound, though. A moment when mankind hit the ceiling of its own ability. The Kola Superdeep showed that the Earth is not a neat stack of layers. It's quite complex. It's violent. It's volatile, all underneath the crust. Rocks behave like liquid under heat. Seawater can hide miles below the surface, and fossils can be buried, melted, and reborn inside metamorphic seams. And we've only seen the outer skin. Even at 7.6 miles, 12.2 kilometers deep, the Kola borehole only pierced 1/3 of the continental crust, and less than 1/1000th of Earth's diameter. The inner Earth remains more mysterious to us than the moon or Mars. Today, the site is abandoned. The metal cap rusts in Arctic wind, and the buildings are gone. The science is pretty much mostly forgotten. But there's a lesson there that remains. Beneath our feet is a world that does not obey the rules we wrote for it. Together, we reached as far as allowed. And then everything pushed back. The Earth pushed back. Not with fire, not with demons. It pushed back with complexity. A very special thank you to an avid, longtime listener, Dr. Igo, for suggesting this story. These are Interesting Things with JC.